Top of the morning to you, ladies and gents. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode number 5, Getting Started with Bitcoin, a Beginner's Guide. Today's episode, we're going to be learning how to use a desktop wallet, and we're also going to be learning about some cold storage options. And I'll talk about what that means in just a sec. Last episode, we set up our first Moon wallet. So we took self-custody of the Bitcoin. We got our Bitcoin off of the exchange. And I also noted the fact that for the majority of people watching this channel, the Moon wallet will be more than sufficient for you. It's very secure, very easy to use, and I think it's a great place to start. And make sure that you have the process in place. Make sure you know where your stuff is and how to access it very quickly in case of an emergency. But if you want to take things to the next level, if you've been learning about Bitcoin and kind of immersing yourself in it, you're starting to accumulate some more Satoshis, and you want to keep them, you want to level up your security here, that's what we're going to be focused on today. So we're going to be starting with the Sparrow Wallet, which is going to be a desktop wallet similar to our Moon, but it's specifically for the desktop. So I would consider it to be a lot more secure for the simple fact that you're not carrying it around in your pocket. You're not taking it to the bar with you. You're not taking it on an airplane, anything like that. For the most part, it should be sticking around your house. So that's the first part. We're actually going to set up the Sparrow wallet. We're going to learn how to receive Bitcoin into the wallet and also how to send Bitcoin out of the Sparrow wallet. So you're going to get the whole 9 yards here with the Sparrow wallet. And once we have that done, we're going to move on to the cold storage stuff. And if you don't know what cold storage means, it's pretty simple. Actually, it basically means that the device is not connected to the internet. So you have a hot wallet and a cold wallet. The hot wallets would be your phone. The Moon wallet would be a hot wallet. The Sparrow on your desktop is connected to the internet, so that's a hot wallet. But then you have devices like the Trezor, like my personal favorite, the Coldcard, looks like a little calculator, and the crypto-only laptop. They sent me a freaking pink one, but doesn't leave the house anyway, so it's not a big deal. And also, make sure I got the right side. Yeah. The bonus part is we're going to be talking about the seed plate. And I mentioned this in the last episode, but then I completely forgot to mention it again. So we're going to be talking about that today, including the punch for it, which also doubles as a weapon. So without further ado, we're going to get things going here with the Sparrow wallet, and we will be back in, you know what it's going to be. 1 sec. Actually, before we get to the Sparrow wallet, we're going to talk about a few prerequisites. And believe it or not, there's actually not many. We're not going to go through every device here, how to do it all. Those might be separate videos. I'm kind of just going to talk about every device and the pros, cons, the issues I see with it, and the main benefits as well. So basically, all we're going to need today is the Sparrow wallet. And in order to get that, every time, wrong button, share screen. Come on. So in order to do that, we're going to be going to sparrowwallet.com. And once you get there, that's what the landing page looks like here. You're going to click on download. So in the last episode, I mentioned that a private wallet is essentially a software application that allows you to send and receive Bitcoin. If you have the private key to that wallet, you're able to spend Bitcoin and obviously receive Bitcoin. So this is another software application that we're going to be putting onto our desktop. And you got a bunch of different options here. You have the Apple, the Mac, the Windows, Linux, and Manifest, whatever that is. But we're going to be using the Windows installer here. That's what I used on my Lenovo device, my laptop. And so if you have a Mac, obviously you're going to be using one of these. So go ahead and click that. You can get that installed. And that's pretty much all you need. Like I said, I'm going to be talking about the devices, but you're not going to need them in this specific episode. And I'm going to provide links into the description below on how to get the devices. You want to make sure that you get them from the supplier, especially the Trezor. It doesn't have the same sort of security as the Coldcard does. And so anyways, let's get going here. We're doing the Sparrow. Okay, we're going to keep things moving right along here. Hopefully at this point you've downloaded Sparrow, you've installed it onto your computer, and you have the application opened up. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to create a wallet. Your opening screen should look a little bit different than this. I think when you first download Sparrow, it's basically just a blank white screen. But all you're going to do is go to the top left and click File and New Wallet. And I'm going to have to drag across my prompts here, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. But we got to create a name for this wallet. So I'm going to call this one Gray Man as a tribute to my gray on gray outfit today. Within the Gray Man wallet, we're going to have the ability to customize some different settings within the wallet. So the first option we have is a single signature or a multi-signature. In this case, we're going to be using a single signature, which only requires one signature to send a transaction. And I should briefly talk about a multi-signature wallet as well, which we'll probably cover later on in this series, maybe. But I think it is important. And I think that as larger organizations begin to adopt Bitcoin and hold some Bitcoin on reserve, this is going to be utilized a lot more. So the way I like to think about this is similar to our current financial system. And if you've ever sat on a board of directors before, you know that in order to spend money from that organization, it usually requires two signatures on a check. So it kind of prevents fraud. It's a good control to have within the organization. And multi-signature is kind of the Bitcoin version of that. So in order to spend Bitcoin, you actually need 2 out of 3 signatures for it to be signed and processed. But the cool thing about this is that with the checks, you actually have to physically go around to 2 different people and get their signatures on that check. With Bitcoin multi-signature, you could have somebody in Australia, you could have somebody in Africa, and somebody in Canada. And as long as they have a device that's connected to this multi-signature wallet, they can just authorize the transaction from there. So it's pretty cool. I figured I'd just mention that. Or maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just a nerd. But anyways, script type here, you have 4 options: legacy, bunch of big words. You don't need to worry about any of them right now. We're going to go with native SegWit, which I believe is the default. And if you remember last episode, when we copied our Bitcoin address there, it started with BC1. And that's what native SegWit is. And that's how you differentiate the different script types. I believe there's BC, BC1, 1, doesn't matter. Just something to, I guess, fill your brain with some nonsense about Bitcoin. But we're going to go with native SegWit. And further down the page here, you have choices between different key stores. So different devices you could be using. The first one here is connecting a hardware wallet, which would be if you have a Trezor or a Ledger, that's what you'd be using to perform all the transactions and all that kind of stuff on your Sparrow wallet. You can connect it to Sparrow. The second one is an air-gapped hardware wallet, which is what you use for the Coldcard. And my favorite part about the Coldcard is that you're able to air gap it, which means you can sign transactions, you can send Bitcoin without this device ever being connected to the internet. And I'm going to discuss how that works a little bit later on in this episode, but it's because of a micro SD card that you can move from the device into the laptop. And basically what you're going to be using Sparrow for in this situation is to look at all your transactions, to receive within the wallets. But in order to spend Bitcoin, you actually have to sign it on this device. And you don't need the internet, which is pretty damn cool. And the third option here is new or imported software wallet, which is what we're going to be using here. So you can go ahead and click that. Another big fancy word. Mnemonic? Sounds right. Mnemonic words. So this is, you get to decide how many words you want to have. In the last episode, when we did the Moon wallet, there was only 8 and there was no options for that. So in this one, you have a choice between 24, 21, 18, 15, 12. I'm going to go with 12 to save me some time today. And again, if you remember from the Moon wallet, on the very first screen of the Moon wallet, you had 2 choices. The first one was restore existing wallet, or create a new wallet. And this is similar to that, because if you had a Sparrow wallet that you wanted to restore private key, this is where you would enter them in. But in this case, we're going to be creating a new wallet within Sparrow. So I'm going to click Generate New. And there is my private key. Horrible security process management here. Similar, like last episode too, I showed the private key because I'm usually pretty quick to move the Bitcoin off of these wallets as soon as the tutorial's done here, the demonstration. You can go ahead and you can try to hack me, and I might slip up sometimes. So you can go ahead, try to restore this if you want to, see if there's any Bitcoin kicking around. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to write these words down on a piece of paper, pen and paper, offline, and I'll be back in a minute. Time. I'm back. I got my words here written down on the reverse of yesterday. I'm pretty resourceful, so I'm using the back of this one today. One thing to keep in mind that I kind of noticed when I was writing this one down is that make sure you put it in the same format as it's shown on the screen. It'll just make things easier for you in the future, or whoever's entering this in, that it's clearly labeled, the words are spelt clearly, and it's also in the same format as you see on the screen here. So what I mean by that is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the setup of that. Probably not a huge deal as long as they're numbered properly, but just make things easier for your future self. So we have the words in here. I'm going to not put a passphrase in here in this case. And I would suggest probably not using a passphrase because it's kind of like the 13th word. If you had your 12 words and you didn't have your passphrase in this specific instance, you'd be locked out of your wallet. So I think it's just one more thing that can go wrong here. I'm going to skip the passphrase and I'm going to confirm the backup. So it says, have these 12 words been written down? In the next step, you'll need to re-enter them. Similar to the moon, we're going to have to verify that we actually wrote these down. And I'm not going to make you sit here through this. So I'm going to enter these right now. Be right back. All right, I got the words entered in here. And if you've been following along here, you notice that these actually autofill for you. So all you have to do is start typing it. And then once your word appears, you can just press tab. Tab button, I think so. Anyways, another useless fact about this is that you actually only need the first 4 letters of every word in order to restore a wallet. So if you had universe as your second word there, but you accidentally wrote down universal, you would still be okay because your first 4 letters of the word are correct and it would let you in. So all looks good here. I'm going to click Create Key Store. And then I'm going to click Import Key Store. So here we go. I got all the settings. I got single signature, native SegWit. I have my keywords or my private key set up. And now I'm going to click Apply. So it prompts you to set up a password for this specific wallet. I'm going to go ahead and skip this. It's just another step I don't really care about. You probably could put in a password here. Just make sure you have it on your same piece of paper that you had with your private key on it. It should be similar to like your PIN code. I'm going to skip it. And that's it. I was expecting some sort of confirmation screen here, but you will notice now on the left side of the screen that all of these have been turned into blue, which means they're functioning. So you can go ahead and use these transactions. You can send, you can receive, you can have all these different addresses that you can receive Bitcoin into. It's kind of cool. Settings, not going to get into any of this right now. Basically what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to be receiving some Bitcoin into this wallet. Receiving is usually pretty easy. All you have to do is provide somebody with your QR code or copy and paste your Bitcoin address to them. But either way, I'm going to open up my Moon wallet right now. I'm going to send some Bitcoin to this wallet. So I want to click receive here. And you'll notice, similar to the Moon, you have your option there of your Bitcoin address in font version or the QR code. So I'm going to use the QR code here, scan that, and I'm going to send 8,888 sats, confirm, and add a note. Fee good enough, and I'm going to click send. So it should, notification should pop up here almost instantly when you're sending wallet to wallet. As I mentioned, when there's no exchange involved in the process here, it's usually pretty quick to show up. And I guess while we're waiting here, one thing to keep in mind is that, and I've made this error before, you'll see at the bottom right here, there's a little toggle on and off. It says I'm connected to a block stream. So it says you're connected to a public server, sharing your transaction data with it. So whoever's running this Bitcoin node can actually see my transactions going back and forth. Eventually, years down the road, you'll maybe have your own Bitcoin node that can verify all the transaction for you. But as a part of this, we're relying on somebody else's Bitcoin node to verify these transactions for us. And so you want to make sure that you have that toggled on, because I've gone through a few things here, very unsettling when you're waiting for a transaction to go through or you're trying to send a transaction. And you have to make sure that this is toggled on instead of off, because if it's disconnected, nothing's going to be coming through here. So it still hasn't showed up, which is a little bit weird. Usually these wallet to wallet transfers are pretty quick, but I'm going to keep waiting here and we'll see when she appears. Okay, so we are having some technical issues here, but I don't mind when this stuff happens, because it's actually a good learning experience for people and realizing that everything doesn't go as planned all the time. And so basically what we're having an issue with right now is that it's not connecting to the Bitcoin node. So it says on my Moon wallet that it has been confirmed. So the transaction's done. It's just not showing up on my Sparrow wallet yet because it's still trying to connect to Blockstream. So I'm not really sure. I tried restarting the Sparrow wallet here and it didn't work. And I'm not exactly sure how to troubleshoot this. So you're learning alongside me here. But usually if something doesn't work in Sparrow, this is the first thing you go to, is you make sure that this is on. And I'm going to try toggling it on one more time. Maybe it'll connect. I don't know. A lot of this stuff's kind of trial and error, which is unfortunate. But like I said, I do have my Moon wallet confirming that it has been paid. It's been confirmed. Everything's good to go, except my Sparrow wallet is not connecting to the node, for pluck's sakes. So we're going to keep waiting. And there she is. So basically what I had to do there was, the first time I tried exiting Sparrow, I just clicked the X here and it still was just trying to connect at the bottom there and nothing was working. And so what I did the second time was I clicked File, Quit, and then it obviously relaunched it. And as soon as I fired it up again, the transaction showed up there. So we can see that it has been confirmed by one party. With every Bitcoin transaction, it wants to get 6 confirmations. So as soon as there's the first confirmation there, you can actually spend that Bitcoin. So as we go along here, as the Bitcoin blockchain keeps chugging along, this should fully confirm with 6 confirmations. But we have 1 confirmation, so we're good to spend it. So that's what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be sending it back to my Moon wallet now. Seems like a waste of fees. Kind of is. Kind of hurts me a little bit, but got to do it for the demos here. So I'm going to paste my Moon wallet into there, which I copied while we were waiting here. And so that's the wallet, my Moon wallet. I'm just going to double check that that is the address. And it is. So we're going to go and send all of our money back here. We're going to call this label what are we going to label this? Refunding the gray man. This is where you choose how much Bitcoin you want to send. You can either use sats or BTC. I like sats because you feel like more of a baller sending larger amounts. I'm going to click max here. I'm sending everything back. And the nice thing about the Sparrow wallet is it's a lot more in-depth than your typical mobile wallet, even Moon. So here you have the ability to kind of select how much you want to spend on the transaction. I usually go, if I'm not in a big rush, I usually have it at the end of the scale here. As a Ukrainian, resourceful Ukrainian, I like to save as many sats as I can here. And how I like to think about these transaction fees are, essentially it is, we've all been to the bar, right? When we were kids, or even last week for some of us, we're at Houston's Country Roadhouse and there's a huge lineup. It's Halloween and you can wait in line. Eventually you'll get in. But if you have a 50 in your pocket, you got $50 or a hundy, you can go up to the bouncer and say, here's $100, please let me in. And he accepts that. So it's the same kind of thing here. If you want to pay more to have your transaction confirmed faster, this is where you can update that. So I'm in no rush. I'm going to be using the minimum amount, 122 sats, and I'm going to go to create transaction. And this is where you have to sign the transaction, finalize for signing, and sign it. So the transaction has been signed. And now you click broadcast transaction. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but in episode 2, I believe it was, when I was talking about how the Bitcoin network audits itself, when you broadcast a transaction, it gets sent out to every Bitcoin node in the entire network. And that's why it's so difficult to go back and change a transaction, because you'd have to go to every single Bitcoin node and make that same change. So that's why it's immutable. You cannot go back and change a transaction. So once I click broadcast transaction here, she's sent. Never to be seen or heard from again. Actually, it should be in my Moon wallet now. I'll see if that popped up. Not yet. But you'll be able to go to transactions and see that the first one now has 2 confirmations. Yeah, and there it is. There's the, so it was a lot faster this time. Maybe it's just because I wasn't connected last time. But that is how you create a Sparrow wallet. That is how you receive Bitcoin into Sparrow. And that's also how you send Bitcoin out of Sparrow. Very handy to have. Like I mentioned in the last episode, I think that you should consider setting up a Sparrow wallet and keep the majority of your Bitcoin on Sparrow, because like I said, you don't carry your desktop computer around in your pocket. It's much less risky to be, run into a situation where you could potentially lose your device. And so you keep your small balance in Moon and your larger Bitcoin balance in Sparrow. Now we're going to be talking about a few different devices in the cold storage department. We got the Trezor, we got the Coldcard, we got the crypto laptop, and of course the seed plate. Be right back. The first device that we're going to be talking about is the Trezor. The Trezor. Oh, and if you look carefully there, you can see some trees in the background, and it's snowing. Trezor was the first device that I had, the first cold storage device. And just to reiterate that, cold storage is another layer of security because it's disconnected from the internet. So back in 2020, I purchased a Trezor. I ordered it from the UK. I think I paid $300 or $400 Canadian for it. I've used it much less since then for a few reasons, which I'll talk about. But the most important thing to know, if you do want to order a Trezor or a Ledger, make sure you get it directly from their website. Don't go to Best Buy, don't go to Walmart, don't find one on Kijiji. Unless you get it directly from the supplier, from Trezor or Ledger, there's a chance that somebody might intercept that, potentially manipulate the data on there and have access to your Bitcoin. I haven't heard of that happening many times, and I doubt that it's possible, but it's just not something that I would even risk. So The Trezor itself, very easy to use. You have a couple options with it. You can either download an application for Trezor similar to the Sparrow Wallet and do all your transacting on there. You can also use Sparrow to facilitate your send and receives. But the nice thing about Trezor is you can actually just use the internet to do it. I think it's called the desktop suite. And so you don't even have to have any sort of applications. You can do it all from their website, which is pretty cool. The easier, the better, but the easier, the more risky, I find. So not always the better. Would I recommend Trezor? If you have other, the only time I would get Trezor is if you had other cryptocurrencies. If you had, say, Theta, or you had Cardano, some Dogecoin maybe, that are not applicable with the Coldcard. The Coldcard's Bitcoin only. Same with the Sparrow Wallet, Bitcoin only. So if you had some other experience or cryptocurrencies in the past, if you had Ethereum, actually, if you have Ethereum, you should sell it today and don't bother with the Trezor. But if you have other stuff, that's what I would use the Trezor for. It's kind of one step up from the Exodus hot wallet. It's the cold version of that. So not the most secure, I don't think. And the main reason for that is because you're connecting it to your laptop. And that's the reason why I stopped using it. Because you go on Amazon, you go on Gmail, all of these sites track you, and they track possibly your keystrokes, all that kind of stuff. So if you're connecting it to a corrupted or potentially corrupted laptop, that's where I have issues with it. And especially if you're visiting some of the adult sites where there's much more exposure to that kind of stuff, wouldn't recommend it. That's my only issue with the Trezor, is that it connects into the laptop that you use for all your other stuff. If you have a laptop specific for cryptos that you attach the Trezor to, then I would recommend that. But it is pretty expensive. You got to make sure you get it through the factory direct, and pretty easy to use, but there are risks involved with that. So let's carry on. We're going to talk about my personal favorite now, the Coldcard. The next one we're talking about is the Coldcard, my personal favorite without a doubt. It's what I've been recommending to everybody who's getting into Bitcoin and wants to up their security. You have a few options when you're first getting into Bitcoin, because you have the option of taking it slow using the Moon Wallet, making sure that it is safe without really screwing anything up. The second option is if you buy some Bitcoin, but you know you're going to be investing more in the future and you want to start off on the right foot, make sure you don't have to be sending transactions to consolidate later on. The Coldcard is a great option because it's pretty cost effective too. It's only like $150 or $200, I believe. It adds up to about $300 once you get this guy, the seed plate, the punch, the cords, and the micro SD. It comes out to about $300. So it's not a whole lot cheaper than the Trezor itself. But I find it to be much more secure than a Trezor. And as I mentioned, it does only hold Bitcoin. So if you have any other shit coins, as people call them, then you cannot use it with the Coldcard. And when we were setting up the Sparrow, I mentioned that you have the ability to do air-gapped transactions on the Coldcard. So what does that mean? It essentially means that you can sign transactions without actually being connected to the internet, connected to a laptop. All you need for the Coldcard is that you have a power source, and you can kind of navigate on the Coldcard. You take out your micro SD, you put it into the computer, sign the transaction, you bring it back to the Coldcard, finalize it on here, broadcast it to the Sparrow, and that's how everything's done. It's never directly connected to the internet, which personally I love. And unless, like I said, unless you have a crypto laptop that's never been exposed to any of these websites, then the Coldcard, the air gap, is probably the most secure route that you can take. So I do have a special on my website, actually, and I'll plug it right here. This is my calendar. There's something called the Cold Cut combo on there, and you can go in there, you can check out all the details. The package that I have, remember the Cold Cut combo, like Happy Gilmore or Subway, I guess. We got the Coldcard combo. That's what I'm offering. So it's $500 on the website, and it includes a device It includes a seed plate. It includes everything you need to get going. Plus, I walk you through it step by step, make sure you do everything properly and that your Bitcoin is safe. So it's $500 on my website. But anybody watching this video, if you want to take advantage of that, I'm actually going to offer it to people watching this video for $400. So you get $100 off. You get everything you need, and you're going to be set up, I think, for the rest of your life. I don't know if you'll need anything other than this because it's so basic, it's so simple that I don't know. I just feel like I'm going to have this for a long time. So that's a Coldcard. I would highly recommend it. Everybody that I listen to within the Bitcoin community, who I trust anyways, they all have nothing but great things to say about this. And it's by a company called Coldcard, made in Canada. Love it. You can see the little thing at the back there. Actually, it says made in Canada. Come on. Now you see the leaf. You get it. So that's the Coldcard. And the seed plate here, I should quickly talk about this because this is going to be included in your Coldcard combo. So instead of having your very important private key written on a piece of paper, the Gray Man wallet, you're going to have a seed plate. And kind of what you're doing here is you're setting up for every worst case scenario. And me personally, if it doesn't cost much more to do that, that's the route that I'm wanting to take. Obviously, it is, like I said, it's harder, more difficult, but worth it. So this is the seed plate here. Basically what you do, I mentioned in the last part that you only actually need the first 4 letters of your private keys for every word for it to be unlocked. So you put in your first 4 there, you punch it. I'll try to keep this away from the mic. I'll put something in the top here, but this is how the punch works. No, that didn't work. There we go. So when you have this, if your house burns down, your seed plate is still going to be there. And for a lot of people, I think if their house burned down tomorrow, I think that their Bitcoin would possibly be gone with it. So it's something seriously to consider here. If you want to take it to the next level, highly recommend. So let's round things out here. We're going to be talking about the crypto only laptop. Okay, the last device that we're going to be talking about today is our crypto only laptop. As I mentioned, they sent me a pink one. I don't know if it's pink or gold. Doesn't matter. But this is the crypto laptop. And the nice thing about it, these come from St. Louis, so they get them directly from the wholesaler. And the company called Calyx Solutions, they take the laptop, they remove all the back doors that inherently come in every laptop that's ever manufactured. Every laptop comes with the ability, the back doors, for somebody to get in there, somebody who you don't want. So they fix that. They close all the back doors. And once you receive your laptop, the first thing you do is set up a brand new email address with Proton Mail. And nobody else will ever know that email address. So there's no chance of people sending you spam with links in it that you could click that would compromise your wallet. And it also, the nice thing about the laptop, or not nice, I guess, in a way, but you don't use it for anything other than transacting with the crypto on there. So you're not using it for YouTube. You're not doing any sort of browsing on it. This laptop has never been to any websites other than the email account. And so they actually preload it with all the wallets that you want. You could put your Theta wallet on there. You could put an Exodus wallet on there, a Divi. They do all that for you, and you don't have to do anything. And you can also, what I do is I actually don't hook it up to Wi-Fi. You hook it directly into the router. Just another step. I mean, I don't think there's many people out here who are going to be hacking my Wi-Fi account. But for the 12th time, you want to make sure that if there's a chance to increase your security and it doesn't cost much more, then you take that every time. So the crypto only laptop, what would I say about it? It's the most expensive by far. It's probably close to 10 times the amount of the Coldcard and the Trezor, but it is a laptop. And I mean, if you decide later on that you don't want to hold crypto anymore, you want to go strictly Bitcoin, you have a brand new MacBook. So the difference that you're paying for there is probably a couple $100 for them to work there, closing the back doors, the shipping, all that kind of stuff. But the nice thing about the crypto only laptop, similar to the Trezor, is that if you have a significant amount of cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, Doge, Cardano, Theta, if you want to be running Theta wallets, Theta nodes, all that kind of stuff, Divi nodes, crypto wallets are great for that. So if you're into that kind of stuff, if you're into the passive income, there's some risks there, obviously, but if that's something that you're interested in, the crypto laptop is great. Very secure, very easy to deal with, Calyx Solutions, and I'm going to put a link below if you want to check that out. That's all the devices that I have. There are tens, probably hundreds more devices, I think, on the market right now. But I didn't want to talk about any of them that I've never used myself and had experience using with or experience using. And so that is it. We got the Trezor, we got the Coldcard, the crypto laptop, and our newly set up Sparrow Wallet. And if I sound like a broken, it's really quiet in this house right now. Eerily quiet. If I sound like a broken record here, I'm sorry. I just feel like for me, I need to hear things a couple different times, especially if you're just like casually listening to these episodes. I want to make sure that we get the most important points across, the messages being delivered. So what I would say one more time is if you're just getting into Bitcoin, if you're not really comfortable moving Bitcoin around, that kind of stuff, I would stick to Moon. If you want to venture a little bit further, you can get into the Sparrow Wallet. You can try a few transactions back and forth, send like a couple dollars. So your risk is very low. And then once you continue learning about Bitcoin, once your portfolio continues to grow, the value of it, the purchasing power of it, that's when you can start looking at a Coldcard or a laptop or a Trezor, anything. If you have any questions, if you want my advice beyond this, or if you want somebody just to hold your hand and walk you through it, make sure that you're doing things right, it's probably worth the investment. If you're going to commit yourself, if you're going to put some money into this, if you're going to put some time into this, you might as well do it right. So I got a 15-minute call in there for free. We can figure out how I can help you, what you need. And from there, you can decide on a half an hour, the topics, the time, very flexible. But at the end of the day, the main purpose of all this, Silverstone, this channel, is to make sure that any dollar of your hard-earned money that you put into Bitcoin is going to be safe. That's absolutely the number one priority. That's why I'm doing this freaking YouTube channel. But it's important. And I think that as we go along here, as Bitcoin continues to over time grow in value and purchasing power, the first things that you do with it are going to make all the difference. So as I said, you don't want to wake up in a few years from now and see the price of Bitcoin and think, oh, I remember I bought some Bitcoin. And then, of course, your papers have been put into the recycling bin and all that kind of stuff. So I won't go through that again. I appreciate you watching. If you've learned anything here, in the first part of this episode, I have a little QR code there for my Lightning wallet. So if you want to send me 50 Satoshis, if you want to send me 500 Satoshis, if you've got any sort of value from these tutorials, if I've helped you get into Bitcoin and you think that you should be, paying it back a little bit, if not, totally fine too. One way you can support this channel is like it, share it with friends, family, or on your social networks. This stuff's important. If you believe in Bitcoin, if you believe in a sovereign future for ourselves, I believe that Bitcoin is the path there. And so I'd appreciate anything you can do to support the channel. And with that, we'll leave her. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Very soon. Bye-bye.